It wasn't the loss that broke me, it was how easily I lost control. That was the day I stared at my screen. Full margin, no stop loss, red numbers blinking like sirens. And I realized I wasn't trading the market anymore. I was trading my own panic. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had that moment? You plan a setup for hours. Everything lines up. You enter the trade, and 10 seconds later, your heart is pounding. Suddenly, you're questioning your plan, adjusting your stop, maybe even clicking the opposite direction. You weren't wrong about the market, but you lost because you couldn't handle yourself. That's what no one tells you about Forex trading. It's not just about charts. It's not about economic news. It's not even about strategy. It's about psychology. And the battle isn't against the market. It's you versus your own nervous system. I used to think I needed more knowledge, more confirmations, more technical edge. But every time I asked a consistently profitable trader what changed the game for them, they didn't say indicators. They said things like, I learned to detach from outcomes. I trained myself to recognize tilt. I stopped chasing and started executing. It hit me like a freight train. All these guys weren't smarter than me. They were just more in control. So I started studying the mind. I tested dozens of routines, failed, restarted, rewired myself, one trade at a time. And eventually, I cracked it. There are 3 psychological strategies that, when applied consistently, changed everything. Not just how I traded, but how I felt, how I recovered from losses, how I showed up to the market every single day. And today, I'm going to share those 3 with you. Raw, simple, and real. Because I've been where you are, doubting yourself, sabotaging good trades, thinking maybe this just isn't for you. But trust me, you're not broken. You're just untrained. Let's fix that. The mirror moment. Let's pause for a second, because maybe, just maybe, you're exactly where I was. There's a moment in every trader's journey where the market stops being the enemy and the mirror turns around. I remember it vividly. It was after another emotionally fueled session. I'd revenge traded twice, flipped my position in 10 minutes, moved my stop loss halfway through, and ended the day with red numbers and a hollow chest. I stared at the screen, hands still on the mouse, like if I didn't move, the loss wouldn't be real. But it was, and deep down I knew. It wasn't the system. It wasn't the spread. It wasn't the news. It was me. I had watched my own psychology hijack my logic. That's the moment I call the mirror moment. When you stop blaming the market and start realizing you're fighting a war inside your own mind. It's both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because now it's on you. Liberating because now you can do something about it. Why most strategies fail. The psychological gap. This is the part nobody tells you. You can buy the best strategy on earth, copy exact entries and exits, use indicators that look like magic, but if your mindset isn't aligned, it all collapses. Let me show you how. You've got a simple trend plus momentum setup. It works 60% in back tests. You start out confident. Day 1 win, day 2 win, day 3 loss, day 4 loss, day 5 skip a setup, it wins. Day 6 hesitate, enter late, stop out. Day 7 modify setup, it bombs. Sound familiar? That's not a strategy problem. That's a psychology problem, and it's not from a lack of knowledge. You know what to do, but your nervous system doesn't trust it, so your brain panics, it avoids, it chases, it changes the plan mid-trade. Why? Because uncertainty, pain, and your brain's job is to avoid pain. This is what I call the psychological gap. Open quote. The space between the logic of your strategy and the emotions that sabotage it in real time. Close quote. You think the next course will fix it? Not unless it rewires you. Because in trading, the biggest danger isn't the market. It's you not following your own plan. That's why I'm not giving you tips. I'm giving you weapons. Open quote. Not against the market, but against your own sabotage. Close quote. The inner contract. Before we dive into the 3 psychological strategies that changed everything for me, I need you to hear this. This video isn't entertainment. It's not a checklist. It's a mirror and a challenge. Here's my offer to you. If you watch this like a student, you'll learn something. But if you watch this like a fighter, someone who's tired of dancing around their potential, then what comes next could change everything, because I won't sugarcoat it. These strategies aren't sexy, don't promise magic, do require honesty, do require consistency, do force you to trade clarity, not certainty. So here's the inner contract I'm asking you to make. I will treat my psychology as seriously as I treat my strategy. I will stop blaming the market and start mastering my reactions. I will stop trying to be right and start trying to be consistent. If you can say that, even silently, then you're ready. Because from this moment on, everything I share is for the trader who's done with excuses and hungry for control. This is the shift. Open quote. The moment you stop trading to feel good and start trading to become good. Close quote. Coming up next, in part one, we begin with the first cornerstone strategy, emotional mapping. Open quote. How to decode your reactions and stop being shocked by your own behavior. Close quote. You'll learn how to turn mistakes into data, why emotional triggers don't vanish and don't have to, how to manage your nervous system in real time. But remember, open quote, this isn't motivation, this is architecture, and we're building something that lasts. Close quote. Let's go. Let me tell you the harsh truth. I wish someone told me earlier, your strategy isn't the reason you're losing money, at least not the main reason. Because if you're anything like I was, you already have a strategy. You've watched the tutorials, you know what a head and shoulders is, understand risk reward, you've back tested, optimized, color-coded your charts like a digital Picasso. But still, you're stuck. Sometimes you win big, then you lose it all the next week. Sometimes you follow your rules, then one small loss sends you off the rails. Revenge trading, doubling risk, chasing anything that moves. That was me. I had a system that worked. I could prove it, show you the edge, show you the back test. But I wasn't trading the system. I was trading my emotions. Let me paint you a picture from one of my worst trading weeks ever. It was NFP week. High volatility, big moves. I told myself I wouldn't touch the market until post-news. But I woke up early Thursday, saw a beautiful setup on GBP USD, and said, okay, just this one trade. No stop loss, no risk calculation, just hope, excitement, ego. Trade went green for 5 minutes, then reversed so hard it took out the week's low. I lost 3% in one hit. Not because of the trade, but because I broke my own rules, because I couldn't control me. The real battle in trading, you versus you. I started reaching out to traders who were actually consistent. Not the flashy ones on Instagram, the quiet ones, the ones who show up every day and execute like machines. And they all told me some version of this. It's not the system, it's the state you're in when you use it. That was a light bulb moment for me, because think about it. If you give a scalpel to a surgeon, they save a life. Give the same scalpel to someone panicking and blindfolded, they hurt themselves. Same tool, different mind. That's what your strategy is, a tool. But you're the operator. And if your hands are shaking, if your mind is racing, if your self-worth is tied to the outcome, you're dangerous to yourself. Strategy alone doesn't make you profitable. Let me break down what I learned the hard way. Most traders spend 90% of their time trying to improve their strategy, but ignore the one thing that actually determines how that strategy performs in the real world, their mindset. Here's what that looked like for me before I made the shift. Backtest win rate, 65%. Live win rate, 40%. Same entries, same rules. But in real time, fear took over. I skipped winners, held on to losers, micromanaged trades to death. The problem wasn't the edge. The problem was me not letting the edge play out. And that's when I stopped asking, what system should I use? And started asking, how do I train myself to actually follow what I already know? Why mindset isn't just motivation. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, I get it. Psychology matters, but what do I actually do about it? Because here's the problem with most trading advice. They say, be disciplined, control your emotions, stay patient. But they don't tell you how. They talk about mindset like it's a motivational quote. But real trading psychology is training, not talking. And for me, that shift started when I treated psychology like a skill. Just like you can train your eye to recognize chart patterns, you can train your brain to stay calm under pressure, to wait, to walk away, to let go. But it doesn't happen overnight. It happens one decision at a time, one trade at a time. Emotional mistakes. Here's something I started to notice. Every time I blew up a trade, it didn't come out of nowhere. There was always a pattern. I was tired, or emotionally off, or I just had a big win and felt invincible. Or a loss triggered a childhood wound I didn't even realize I had. You think you're reacting to the chart, but most of the time you're reacting to something inside you. That's when I started journaling. Not just the trades, but the emotions. And patterns began to emerge. I wasn't a bad trader, I was just an untrained one mentally. The shift that changed everything. So here's the shift I want to offer you, one that changed my life. Stop trying to outsmart the market. Start learning to outcalm yourself, because the market isn't your enemy, it's neutral. It doesn't care. It just reflects your behavior back at you. Every time you break your rules, it punishes you. Every time you respect your process, it rewards you, not always with profit, but with peace. And peace creates consistency, and consistency creates profitability. Setting the stage for the 3 strategies. Now that you know the real problem isn't your system, it's your state. Let me show you the 3 strategies that help me fix that. And just to be clear, these aren't tricks. They're not motivational fluff. They are mental operating systems used by real, long-term profitable Forex traders, myself included. And they'll help you go from emotionally reactive to mentally prepared, outcome obsessed to process focused, strategy collector to consistent executor. Let's dive into strategy number 1 next, the mental checklist before every trade. Strategy number 1, the mental checklist before every trade. Let me take you back to a turning point in my journey. It was a random Tuesday. I had just come off a decent winning streak. Confidence high, maybe a little too high. The market opened, I scrolled through the charts. EURUSD looked clean. I skipped the prep, skipped the risk calc, skipped the breathing, just entered. Boom. A few minutes later, price reversed. I added, reversed more. I doubled down, reversed again, margin call. I remember just staring at the screen, thinking, how did I mess this up? I knew better. That night, I called a friend, an old school Forex trader who'd been in the game for over a decade. I vented, he listened, then asked me a question that changed everything. What's your pre-trade checklist? I paused. I don't have one. He just smiled. There's your problem. Why a mental checklist changes everything. You know what's crazy? If I were a pilot, I wouldn't take off without a checklist. If I were a surgeon, I wouldn't cut into someone without checking my tools. But as a trader, I was risking thousands of dollars on decisions made in seconds without any mental preparation. It's insane when you think about it. So I built a checklist, not a technical one, a mental one. And once I started using it, I noticed something strange. I didn't just take fewer bad trades. I felt better while trading, calmer, more focused, less attached, because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. The 3 questions that became my armor. Here's the exact mental checklist I use before every trade. It takes less than 20 seconds, but it saves me thousands. Question 1, am I emotionally neutral right now? If I just had a big win, I skip the trade. If I'm angry, anxious, bored, or distracted, I skip the trade. If I want to make money, I skip the trade. If the trade is about me, not the setup, it's a red flag. Being emotionally neutral doesn't mean numb. It means clear, detached, unbiased, like a sniper, not a cowboy. Question 2, is this setup aligned with my plan? Sounds obvious, right? But how many trades have you taken that felt pretty close but not quite perfect? A candle formation that almost looked right, an entry that's slightly early, a gut feeling that maybe this will work. Yeah, I've done that too. So before I enter, I ask, if I showed this setup to my future self, would they say, good job, or what were you thinking? If I hesitate, I don't take it. No maybes, no guesses, only hell yes. Question 3, can I accept the outcome, win or lose, without emotional reaction? This one's big, because if I enter and I'm secretly hoping this trade will fix last week's losses, or prove I'm still on a roll, or impress someone watching me trade, that's emotional attachment, and emotional attachment leads to self-sabotage. So before clicking buy or sell, I ask, if this trade hits stop loss, can I walk away feeling proud of the process? If the answer is no, I don't deserve to be in the trade. What changed when I started using this mantra? I want to be honest with you. At first, this checklist felt like a hassle, a delay, an extra step. But after 2 to 3 weeks of using it religiously, I saw something incredible. I was taking fewer trades, but better trades. I stopped forcing setups. My win rate didn't skyrocket, but my consistency did. And more importantly, I started to trust myself, because every trade I took, I knew I had done the work to be mentally ready. No more panic, no more guessing, just process. But here's the catch. A checklist only works if you treat it seriously. If you rush through it just to tick the boxes, it loses its power. It's like meditation. You can't fake stillness. You have to pause, breathe, ask yourself the questions with brutal honesty, because this isn't about perfection, it's about preparation. Add this to your routine. Now, you don't need to copy mine word for word, create your own, but whatever it looks like, make sure it does these three things: checks your emotional state, confirms your setup integrity, prepares you for emotional neutrality no matter the outcome. Write it down, print it, tape it to your monitor. Say it out loud if you need to. Do it every day before every trade without exception. One last story. A few months ago, I was on a Zoom call with a new trader. He had the skills, the strategy, the drive, but he couldn't break through. I asked if he had a pre-trade routine. He laughed. I just kind of go with the flow. So I challenged him. Try the 3-question checklist for 2 weeks, no skipping. He messaged me 10 days later. Dude, I'm not even trading every day anymore, but I'm finally profitable. That's the power of mental filtration. When your mind is clear, your edge can breathe. So now the question is, what's your checklist? Because if you're entering trades with a chaotic mind, you're gambling. But if you stop, even for 15 seconds, to check in with your internal environment, you shift from emotional to intentional. And that's the difference between a trader chasing setups and one building a career. Let's move to strategy number 2 next: how to detach from the outcome and why it unlocks consistency. Strategy number 2, detach from the outcome. Let me ask you something that no trading book ever prepared me for. Can you place a trade and genuinely not care whether it wins or loses? Sounds impossible, right? I used to think the same, because in the early stages, every trade felt personal. It wasn't just a setup on a chart. It was a test of my intelligence, my identity, my worth. If it won, I felt like a genius. If it lost, I felt like a failure. Even worse, I acted like a failure. I'd jump into another trade to prove myself, or refuse to take the next valid setup because the last one hurt too much. I wasn't trading the market, I was trading my ego. Why? Why outcome attachment kills consistency. Here's something I realized after years of internal chaos. If you're emotionally attached to any single outcome, you will never be consistent, because the market doesn't reward attachment. It rewards objectivity, process, patience. Every professional trader I talked to said the same thing in different ways. You have to stop trying to win each trade, start trying to trade well. That shift was hard, because I'm a human being, we're wired to care about results. But in trading, caring too much is actually what causes the worst decisions. The day I gave up caring and started winning, I'll never forget the moment that flipped everything for me. I had this perfect setup on USD/JPY, clean SR level, divergence, beautiful confirmation, everything aligned. I placed the trade, set my stop, set my take profit, and then I did something I had never done before. I shut the laptop. I didn't stare, didn't micromanage, didn't check price every 30 seconds. I went for a walk, grabbed a coffee, let the market do its thing. When I came back 2 hours later, the trade had hit TP. But here's the best part. Even if it had hit SL, I would have been fine, because I wasn't attached. I was in integrity. I had followed my plan. I had executed with discipline. That was the win, not the result. What detachment actually means? Let's get clear. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean I don't care about money. It means this: you care more about the process than the profit, because profit is unpredictable in the short term. You can't force a win, but you can control how clean your entries are, how well you follow your system, how calmly you execute. Detachment is when you're okay with any result because you know you showed up the right way. Again, signs. You're still attached to outcomes. You might think you're detached, but let me give you some signs that say otherwise. You feel anxious while in a trade. You watch price tick by tick. You change stops or TPs mid-trade. You over-celebrate wins and overdwell on losses. You say things like, I need this trade to work. Those are all symptoms of attachment, and every one of them leads to emotional instability, which leads to poor decisions, which leads to inconsistent results. The meta shift, process over profit. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing to win, you start winning more. Why? Because when you focus on the process, you stop forcing trades, you become patient, you trust your system, You eliminate emotional interference. Suddenly, your edge has space to breathe. Think of it like this. Imagine a professional archer. She trains for years to master the bow. When it's time to shoot, she focuses on form, breath, grip. She doesn't chase the arrow in the air. She trusts her execution. The outcome is none of her business. That's you in trading. Place the trade, step back, let it fly. How I trained my detachment muscle. Detachment isn't a mindset, it's a muscle. Here's how I trained it. 1, I started journaling not just results, but behavior. Every day I'd log. Did I follow my rules? Did I feel calm when placing the trade? Did I stay detached from the result? Over time, I noticed my best trades weren't always the profitable ones, but they were the ones I was proud of. 2, I started meditating before trading. Just 5 minutes. Breathe in, breathe out. Visualize placing a clean trade and walking away. That mental rehearsal rewired my nervous system. 3, I celebrated process, not profit. When I followed my plan perfectly, even on a losing trade, I'd write, "Nice work, that was professional." I rewired my dopamine loop to reward discipline, not dollars. The power of indifference. One of my mentors told me this, and it stuck with me. You have to become indifferent to outcome, but obsessed with execution. Read that again. Indifferent to outcome, obsessed with execution. Because the only thing you actually control is how you show up. And when you master that, something beautiful happens. You stop fearing losses. You stop chasing wins. You become free to follow your plan, free to walk away, free to let the edge play out over time. That's where consistency lives. Final thought before strategy 3. If you're tired of the roller coaster, emotionally up on wins, crushed on losses, you're not alone. I was there too, but I promise you this, the day you stop trading for the outcome and start trading with integrity is the day everything changes. Next up, I'll show you the final piece of the puzzle, how profitable traders recover from losses on purpose. We'll talk about post-trade emotional routines that rebuild confidence instead of destroying it. Let's get into strategy number 3, emotional recovery systems. Strategy number 3, emotional recovery systems. Let's get real for a second. It's not the loss that ruins you, it's the spiral that comes after it. One trade goes south and suddenly you're glued to the screen, your mind spinning, your hand hovering over the mouse like it has a mind of its own. You click, another loss. You click again, no setup, no rules, just reaction. You don't even recognize yourself anymore, and hours later you look at your account, down 15%. And the only thing you can say is, how the hell did this happen? I know that spiral all too well. Real discipline is recovery. I used to think discipline was about prevention, but real discipline is about recovery. Because no matter how sharp you are, no matter how solid your system, you're still going to have bad days. And if you don't have a system for getting your emotions back online, you will blow up your account, not because you're a bad trader, but because you're a reactive one. The hidden skill nobody talks about. Here's the truth. Every profitable trader I know has a post-trade process, especially after a loss. They don't just move on or get over it. They have rituals, systems, protocols. They treat emotional recovery like it's part of the job, because it is. My turning point, when rage took the wheel. It was a Friday. I had one trade left before shutting down for the weekend. EUR GBP setup looked clean. I entered, felt good, then I broke my rule, moved my stop closer to avoid the full loss. Of course, price clipped my stop and then went straight to my original take profit. I was furious. I told myself I had to get it back, so I entered a completely different pair. No setup, just revenge. 1 hour later, 5 losing trades, wiped out my entire weekly profit, and then some. That weekend, I didn't rest. I obsessed, replayed every candle, criticized every decision, even doubted whether I should keep trading. That spiral, that emotional fallout, was 100% avoidable. If I had a system, the recovery protocol, that saved me. The next Monday, I made a decision. I can't control the market, but I can control what happens after the market punches me in the face. So I built an emotional recovery protocol. Here's exactly what it looks like. Step 1, the 24-hour rule. After a big emotional loss, I do not trade for 24 hours, no exceptions, no just one more, no let me make it back real quick. Why? Because in that moment, I'm flooded with cortisol. My thinking is reactive, and in that state, I don't make decisions, I make mistakes. So I log off, Shut the laptop, go outside, let the nervous system reset. Step 2, the emotional journal. I used to journal just trades, entry, exit, RR. Now I journal how I felt during the trade. Was I anxious before entry? Was I impulsive during? Did I feel the need to prove something? What belief got triggered? Sometimes the loss wasn't about the chart. It was about ego, fear, impatience, even something like a fight I had the night before. That's when I realized the real enemy isn't the market, it's me. Step 3, the reset ritual. After journaling, I do my reset ritual. A walk around the deep breathing, 4 to 7, 8 method. A mantra like, I am not my last trade. I trade the plan, not the pain. Sometimes I listen to waves, stretch, cook something. The point is, I reconnect to my body because the market lives on the screen, but I live in the real world. That's where healing happens. Step 4, talk to a trading friend, the right one. After a loss, I message or call a trusted trader, but not someone who'll say, yeah, the market's rigged or you got unlucky. No, I talk to someone who's been there, who'll say, let's break it down. What triggered you? Trading can be lonely, but emotional processing doesn't have to be. Sometimes just saying it out loud breaks the spell. Why this works over time. At first, the protocol didn't take away the sting, but it changed the spiral. I didn't compound mistakes, I didn't implode, I didn't hate myself, I processed, reset, moved forward. Over time, bounce backs got quicker, pain got smaller, self-trust got stronger. It was like building emotional scar tissue. Not numbness, resilience. What most traders do instead, and why it's dangerous. Let's contrast that with what most traders do after a loss. Blame the broker, blame the news, take another trade instantly, scroll Twitter for validation, tell themselves they're not cut out for trading. That's avoidance, not recovery. And every time you avoid emotional responsibility, you give power to the market. Recovery systems take that power back, the real reason this matters. Here's the biggest truth I've learned. Your trading career won't be defined by how you handle wins. It'll be defined by how you respond to losses. Everyone feels good when they're green, but who are you when it's red? Do you collapse or do you reset? Profitable traders aren't perfect. They're trained to bounce back, calmly. That's what this strategy is about. Not perfection, not avoiding pain, but building the emotional immune system to keep showing up, clean, clear, in control. Shash, final transition. So let me ask you, do you have a recovery system? Or are you still trading on raw emotion, hoping it works out? If you're serious about this game, then treat your emotions like capital. Protect them, reset them, invest in them. Because the longer you stay emotionally stable, the longer you survive. And survival is what leads to mastery. Now that you've got all 3 strategies, let's zoom out and bring it all together. In the next part, I'll connect the dots and show you how these 3 simple tools work together to transform you into a consistent, confident, and calm trader, even in the chaos of the market. Let's bring it home. Let's zoom out for a second. We've just walked through 3 strategies that changed my trading forever. The mental checklist, to prepare my mind before I risk a cent, detaching from the outcome to stop trading my ego, emotional recovery protocol, to bounce back without blowing up. Each one on its own saved me from countless emotional disasters. But something powerful happened when I started using all 3 together. This wasn't just a set of tools anymore. It became a system, a psychological foundation that held strong even when the market went crazy. This is what most traders miss. They collect strategies, read books, watch hours of content, but they never integrate. So here's the shift I want to walk you through. From theory to victory, how 3 psychological strategies combine into an unshakable system. Step 1, mental clarity. Before the market opens, let's start at the beginning. Most traders wake up, open their chart, and immediately start reacting. Not you. Now you start with a checklist. It's not just technical, it's emotional. Am I calm? Am I following my plan? Am I prepared to accept any outcome? You're filtering your own state before even filtering the market. That 20-second pause creates space between stimulus and reaction. And that space is where consistency lives. It's like checking the weather before you fly a plane. You're not just making a decision. You're taking responsibility for your state. And once your mind is in check, your system can breathe. Step 2, emotional detachment. During execution, you've placed the trade, and now you let go. You're not staring at the candles like your life depends on them. You're not willing the trade to win. You've learned how to detach. You remind yourself, open quote, "My job is not to control the outcome. My job is to execute with discipline." Close quote. You feel calm, even if price goes against you, because this isn't about this trade. It's about doing the right thing over time. That detachment turns chaos into clarity. You stop trading the money and start trading the process. Step 3, recovery. After the trade, win or lose. Here's the difference between amateurs and pros. Amateurs celebrate wins emotionally and panic on losses. Pros review both with neutrality. With your emotional recovery system, you don't spiral anymore. You follow your post-trade protocol, log your behavior and emotion, not just result. Reflect, did I follow my plan? Reset your state before you trade again. If it was a loss, you don't chase. If it was a win, you don't get cocky. You center yourself, you get present, you move on. That kind of post-trade hygiene, it compounds. It builds something far more valuable than profit, mental capital. And mental capital outlasts drawdowns. What it looks like in real life. Let's say it's Thursday. You sit down at your desk. You don't feel great. Maybe you're tired or just not focused. You check in. Am I emotionally neutral? No. Is this setup clear? Maybe. Am I okay with losing this trade? Honestly, not today. So you walk away. No trade. That's discipline. That's edge. Later that day, you feel centered. A setup comes, you run your checklist again, all green, you enter, you detach, you don't watch. Price hits your stop loss, you breathe, you journal, you reset. You didn't win the trade, but you won the day. That is trading like a professional. The 3 become 1. Let's break it down simply. The checklist protects your entries. Detachment protects your execution. Recovery protects your mindset and your capital. They're not isolated tactics. They're a loop, a self-reinforcing cycle that replaces emotion with structure. Prepare, execute, recover, repeat. Every great trader I've met lives in this loop. It's not exciting, it's not flashy, but it's stable, repeatable, sustainable. And why this changes everything. When I started integrating these 3, I stopped needing to be right. I stopped chasing the perfect strategy. I stopped blowing up after one bad day. Instead, I took fewer trades, but better ones. I trusted myself again. I had time to think. I stopped fearing the market. You don't need a genius IQ. You don't need some secret algorithm. What you need is to build a system inside yourself that won't collapse when the market tests you, because it will test you over and over. But now, you're ready. Your turn to build the system. Let me challenge you with 3 simple actions. 1, write your 3-question mental checklist. Make it personal. Stick it on your wall. 2, commit to 1 detached trade this week. Place it. Walk away. Feel the freedom. 3, design a simple recovery ritual. Walk, journal, breathe, reset. Use it every time emotions run high. Try this for 7 days, just 1 week, and see how differently you feel. Because once your mind becomes your ally, trading becomes something else entirely. Not a fight, not a chase, but a rhythm, a practice, a profession, a path you can walk for years without burning out. Final thought. From theory to victory. That's not just a catchy line. It's the journey I've walked. From chaos and blown accounts to clarity, control, and consistency. And I promise you this. If you truly integrate these 3 psychological strategies, not just once, but daily, you will become a different kind of trader. Not just someone who trades charts, but someone who masters themselves in the process. Let's keep going. Let's keep building. And I'll see you in the next part. Rewiring the habit loop, 1 trade at a time. Let me tell you a hard truth I resisted for a long time. You don't need to be brilliant to succeed in trading. You need to be boringly consistent. And I know that's not what you want to hear. Because we all come into this game looking for that one big trade, the home run, the golden setup, the $100,000 to $10,000 in a week moment that makes everything worth it. I chased that fantasy for years, and every time I did, I spiraled. But here's what I eventually learned, what actually changed everything for me. Your trading doesn't change when you land a big winner. It changes when you start stringing together small acts of discipline. The myth of the game changer trade. In my first year, I kept telling myself, open quote, if I can just catch 1 clean swing trade, I'll be back. I'll fix everything. Close quote. And sure, sometimes I did catch one. Big win. 4R, maybe even 6R. But what came next? Overconfidence. Bigger position size, deviating from plan, emotional chasing. By the end of the week, I gave it all back, and more. Why? Because my habits weren't stable. My wins were luck, my losses were patterns, and I was running in circles, emotionally and financially. That's when I realized you don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your habits. Like the habit loop, and why it's everything. Let's break it down. Every decision you make as a trader, whether you stick to your stop loss, wait for confirmation, skip a bad setup, feeds into a neurological circuit. Your brain tracks it, and whatever you repeat becomes your identity. If you consistently chase trades after losses, you're wiring revenge. Constantly exit early out of fear, you're reinforcing anxiety. Pause, checklist, execute clean trades, you're building discipline. You become a trader not by title, but by habit, and habits, when repeated, become identity. From gambler to trader, one trade at a time. Let me give you a personal challenge that changed everything for me. I called it the 10 Trade Integrity Challenge. The rule: follow my plan perfectly for the next 10 trades. No outcome goals, no P&L focus, just perfect process. I didn't care if I won or lost. The only win was execution. What happened? I passed on over half the setups I used to force. I took fewer trades, but all were high quality. I felt calmer, clearer, more focused. By trade number 10, I realized something powerful. This wasn't just about getting better trades. It was about becoming someone I trusted. Let's be honest, how many traders actually trust themselves? Most of us are at war with our own instincts. This challenge broke that war and replaced it with quiet confidence. How habits actually rewire the brain. Let's talk neuroscience. Your brain has neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire based on repeated action. So every time you respect your stop loss, wait for confirmation, sit on your hands through uncertainty, you're not just being disciplined, you're literally reshaping your brain. And the more often you repeat those actions, the stronger those neural pathways become. Eventually, what used to feel hard becomes automatic. That's the goal, to make good behavior easier than bad behavior, not through willpower, but through repetition. Small wins, big wins. What's the difference between a gambler and a trader? A gambler needs excitement. A trader needs structure. A gambler wants the jackpot. A trader stacks small wins. I used to think small wins were boring. Now I see them as bricks, each one building a foundation that lasts. It's not sexy, but it's real. And I'd rather have a boring system with stable gains than another adrenaline spike that ends in regret. Build a 5-trade habit sprint. Try this. Here's something to try this week. Take your next 5 trades. Commit to one thing. Perfect process. Write your checklist. Record your entries. Score yourself on discipline, not dollars. Here's my personal scoring method. Entry matched criteria, +1. Followed stop loss, +1. Didn't touch trade once live, +1. Journaled emotions post-trade, +1. Did recovery ritual, +1. Total possible, 5 points. How did I do? That's how I measure success now. Process score, profit. Do this for just 5 trades and you'll feel something shift inside. That shift is a new identity forming. Final thought for part 6. Every trader wants transformation. Most look for it in indicators, strategies, forecasts. Let me tell you where the real transformation happens. In the moment you choose discipline over impulse, when you sit out instead of trading your emotions, when you take a clean loss without losing your self-trust. Those are the invisible wins no one celebrates, but they're the ones that change your life. So stop chasing the perfect trade. Start building the perfect pattern of behavior, one trade at a time. That's how you go from reactive, reliable, erratic, elite, gambler, trader. In part 7, we go even deeper, because once you repeat the behavior, a powerful question arises. Who are you becoming? Let's talk about the identity shift from amateur to operator. The identity shift from amateur to operator. Let me tell you a hard truth. For years, I thought becoming a professional trader was about results. If I could just have 3 green months in a row or double my account or finally pass that funded challenge, then I'd become the real thing. But here's the paradox. You don't become a pro because you're winning. You win because you've become a pro. It's not about the numbers, it's about identity. Who do you think you are? Let me ask you something. Right now, deep inside, how do you see yourself? Be honest. Are you trying to trade? Are you someone who hopes to make it? Or are you someone who executes clean setups with discipline, no matter the outcome? Here's what I discovered after blowing accounts, chasing signals, and crying over red days. Open quote, your performance will never exceed your identity. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. Close quote. If deep down you believe you're a beginner or not consistent, you'll act accordingly. You'll exit early, you'll enter impulsively, you'll abandon systems, not because you lack skill, but because you're being loyal to your identity. Your brain craves consistency, not growth. Here's something wild from neuroscience. Your brain values consistency over correctness. It's called cognitive consonance. If you believe you're undisciplined and then one day you follow your rules, your brain feels uncomfortable. It doesn't fit the story. So what happens? You self-sabotage the next trade to restore identity alignment. Crazy, right? You think you're fighting the market, but really, you're fighting your own self-image. The language that rewires you. So how do we shift identity? How do we move from amateur to operator? Simple. Start speaking like the trader you want to be. I stopped saying, I hope this trade works. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'll get lucky. And I started saying, I execute clean setups with discipline. I follow my system, not my feelings. I'm a risk manager first, profit seeker second. These aren't fluffy affirmations. They're operational language. The kind of statements a real trader would say, because that's who I was becoming. I said them before I believed them, and eventually my actions started matching my words. Identity equals behavior equals results. When you align your language, your belief, and your action, something incredible happens. Your trading starts to stabilize. You stop chasing, you stop reacting, you stop overthinking. Why? Because it's no longer about the trade. It's about the operator behind it. I became less attached to P&L and more obsessed with how well I executed. That shift changed everything. Hash the 3 levels of the identity shift. Let's break this down into 3 actionable levels. You can check where you are and where to go next. Level 1, role-playing. You're experimenting. You copy what other traders do. You try to act the part. But deep down, you don't believe you're legit. You hesitate, you doubt, you hope. This is where most traders get stuck. Level 2, ownership. You start creating your own process. You say no to sloppy trades, like you stop outsourcing responsibility. You begin to trust yourself. Here's where the identity shift starts to take root. Level 3, embodiment. You don't act like a trader. You simply are one. Whether you win or lose, you execute with intention. Your worth isn't tied to results. It's anchored in behavior. You're no longer reacting to the market. You're operating within it. Calm, clear, focused. This is when trading becomes quiet and beautiful. Exercises to shift your identity today. Want to accelerate this shift? Here are 3 things I did that rewired my identity faster than anything. 1, write your trader identity statement example. Open quote, I am a disciplined risk manager who executes high probability setups and respects my plan. Close quote, read it every morning. Out loud, seriously. 2, log identity wins, not just P&L. Instead of just tracking profit or loss, ask yourself, did I follow my system? Did I act from clarity, not emotion? Did I let go of needing to be right? These are identity wins. They compound fast. Hash 3, record voice notes before and after trades. Before entry, I am executing this setup because it meets my criteria. After exit, win or lose, I respected my process. Hearing your own voice affirm discipline, it's powerful reinforcement. Identity drives everything. Look, you can change your strategy. You can buy new indicators. You can copy another trader's plan. But if your identity doesn't shift, you'll always return to your baseline, your habits, your language, your beliefs. So stop trying to trade like someone else. Start becoming the trader you already are, underneath the noise. You're not just learning how to trade, you're learning how to be someone who trades well. That's the shift. That's what separates gamblers from operators. That's the moment your journey becomes yours. Want to keep the momentum? Let's move to part 8, my daily process, where I'll walk you through exactly what I do each morning to lock in this identity and how you can copy it step by step. Ready? Let's go. My daily process and what you can copy today. Let me tell you a story that changed everything for me. A few years ago, I was stuck in a brutal cycle. I'd wake up, stare at the charts, scroll Twitter, scan for what's hot, panic into a trade I didn't plan, and then spend the rest of the day emotionally reacting to red or green candles. There was no process, only pressure. And that pressure led to poor decisions. I'd win big one day, lose everything the next. Even when I won, it didn't feel good because deep down I knew I got lucky. There was no peace of mind, no control, until I made one of the hardest but most liberating decisions of my life. I don't want to be right anymore. I want to be reliable. Why process beats strategy. Most traders think their edge is in their strategy. They obsess over indicators, backtests, new tools. But let me be blunt. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if your process is garbage, your results will be too. Process is what turns strategy into consistent execution. It's what protects your mind from chaos. It's the rhythm that gives you predictability in an unpredictable game. Think about it. If you want to be a sniper, you don't just grab a gun and go. You train your breath. You lock into position. You repeat a ritual that creates precision. Trading is no different, my daily process, step by step. Here's what I do every single trading day. No exceptions. You don't need to copy it all, but pick one piece and you'll feel the shift. 1. Wake up early, no screen. First 30 minutes, worst thing you can do, start your day with noise. No Twitter, no charts, no notifications. Instead, I stretch, drink water, journal, 3 lines, what I'm grateful for, what I'm focused on, how I want to feel while trading today. Sounds small, changes everything. 2. Review my watch list, no urgency. I don't chase the market, I prepare for it. Every evening I mark clean setups. In the morning I calmly ask, has anything fundamentally changed? Is the setup still valid? Where is my invalidation level? No FOMO, no hype, just clarity. Visualization, 5 minutes only. This is key, especially if you struggle with hesitation or revenge trades. I close my eyes and visualize, taking only clean trades, letting go of losers, holding winners, journaling with confidence. I don't visualize profits, I visualize execution. Ha4, meditation, yes, really. I'm not a monk, but trading is emotional. I sit in silence for 5 minutes. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's powerful, but every time, it's practice. Practice being calm in chaos. Ha5, scan without emotion. Now I open my charts. Rule, if I feel excited, I don't trade. Excitement equals impulse. Impulse equals inconsistency. I scan with logic. If it's not my setup, I walk. No setup, no trade. That one rule saved me from 70% of my losses. 6, execute like a robot. When I enter, I run my checklist. Is this my A+ setup? Is risk 1R? Am I emotionally neutral? Have I logged this trade? If yes to all, I execute. No second guessing, no drama. Once I click, it's out of my hands. 7, end of day review, win or lose. At the end of the day, I ask, did I follow my plan? What emotions came up? What can I improve tomorrow? Not, how much did I make? Because the focus is behavior, not balance. That's how I spotted patterns I couldn't see before. When I hesitate, when I overtrade, when I cut winners short. You can't fix what you don't track. This is where growth lives. This isn't magic, it's maintenance. People ask, what's your secret edge? I smile. They expect a hot stock, a secret pattern, an algo. But the real edge? It's boring. It's repeatable, it's process. I don't win because I'm perfect. I win because I'm predictable. How you can start today, here's your challenge. Pick one step from this process. Maybe journaling, scanning without emotion, end of day review. Do it for 7 days. Forget profit, just track. Did I follow my process? You'll be shocked what happens because when your process improves, your mind improves. And when your mind improves, the results follow. Final thought. Open quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. James Clear, close quote. Trading isn't about motivation. It's about design. Design a process you can trust, then live inside it. That's how amateurs become professionals, and you're already on your way. There's a moment in every trader's life when the charts go quiet, the notifications stop, and you're left staring at your screen, wondering how something that looks so simple can feel so damn chaotic. I remember that silence well, not because it was peaceful, but because it was the sound of my confidence dying. I had every course, I knew every strategy, I even made a killer watch list every morning. But despite all that, I kept blowing up trades in seconds that took me hours to plan. And if you're a serious day trader reading this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That frustrating, infuriating loop where you know better, but still act worse. That's not a strategy problem. It's a mindset problem. More specifically, a trading psychology problem. The hard truth: you can't outsmart your own brain. People think trading is about intelligence, and sure, understanding patterns, price action, and macro events helps. But here's the paradox. The smarter you are, the easier it is to overthink. You don't lose money because you're dumb. You lose money because you're disconnected from yourself. You think the market is your opponent? No, it's your own nervous system. The emotional spikes, the panic buys, the FOMO entries, the revenge trades. These don't come from bad setups, they come from untrained instincts. Rewiring your internal operating system. Becoming a profitable Forex trader isn't about downloading more indicators. It's about uninstalling your old behavioral programs. The part of you that thinks missing a trade means missing your future. The part that confuses dopamine hits with data. The part that trades to fix something inside you, not execute something outside. This work is invisible, but it's the most important thing you'll ever do as a trader, because when you upgrade your psychology, your entire system follows. You don't need more signals, you need more self-control. One of the most painful truths I had to accept was this: I didn't need a better entry strategy. I needed a better version of myself. I was in 5 signal groups, had 3 mentors, watched 100 plus hours of backtesting tutorials, but the moment the candles started moving, all of that vanished. Why? Because I hadn't trained my mindset trading muscle. I was reacting, not responding, executing hope, not discipline. Trading psychology, the real edge. There are traders with less capital than you, less education, less screen time, but they're winning. Why? Because they built their identity around control, not chaos. And the tool they used wasn't some magic indicator or AI robot. It was trading psychology. Let me be clear, psychology isn't the final piece that makes your strategy better. It's the foundation that holds everything up. You can't build a stable trading career on emotional instability. From fragile to fortified, building emotional architecture. Every time I sat through a setup instead of forcing a trade, took a loss with curiosity instead of rage, closed the screen and journaled instead of chasing, I wasn't just being good, I was building something deeper. I was teaching my body that I'm safe without action, that I'm not here to prove anything, that I don't need to be right, I need to be aligned. That's the difference between a gambler and a trader. The storm before the system. Let me tell you what the breakthrough looks like. It doesn't feel like clarity. It feels like collapse. Before I found flow, I drowned. Before I found rhythm, I panicked. Before I became consistent, I was a mess of highs and lows. That's part of the process. You don't go from emotional chaos to calm overnight, but you do go, one trade at a time, one rule at a time, one breath at a time. From theory to victory, how the 3 strategies unite. By now, you've seen the full arc. Strategy number 1, emotional awareness, catching yourself in real time. Strategy number 2, execution without emotion, trusting the system, not the feeling. Strategy number 3, identity alignment, acting like the trader you want to become. These aren't separate ideas. They're pieces of one transformation. From chaos, control, from gambler, grounded, from inconsistent, inevitable. This is how I went from someone addicted to outcomes to someone addicted to execution. And that shift made everything else possible. My final message to you: if you're stuck in the spiral right now, if you wake up every day with a mix of hope and dread, if you've told yourself, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, I want you to hear me. You're not broken. You're not too emotional. You're not behind. You're simply early in the real game. The game where your nervous system is the battlefield and your mind is the weapon. Your exit from the cycle starts here. You don't need to blow another account. You don't need to wait for a mentor to rescue you. You just need to make one powerful decision: that the version of you who trades with discipline, clarity, and confidence is not a dream. He or she is already inside you, waiting to be trusted. Start with one rule, one trade, one breath. That's how the system builds. That's how the chaos ends. That's how the Forex trader in you becomes the operator you were meant to be. The never-ending game becoming the trader who outlasts everyone. Let me tell you something most Forex traders won't say out loud. It's not the wins that made me profitable. It's the fact that I'm still here. I'm still here after blowing 2 accounts, still here after thinking I had it all figured out and losing it all again. Still here after watching traders on Twitter post P&Ls that made me feel like trash. Still here when others quit, jumped to crypto, or blamed the market. You want to know why? Because I stopped playing the short game. Mindset is the real strategy, yes. Strategy matters. Entries matter. Risk management matters. But none of it matters if your mindset collapses under pressure. I've seen it over and over. Smart, analytical traders who can read a chart like a chess master but blow up after 2 losing trades. Why? Because they never built the inner game. They thought psychology was something to fix after results came. Wrong. Your mindset isn't a bonus. It's the edge. It's the engine. It's the system that runs your system. The game is survival. Let's get brutally honest. The market doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care about your Elliott waves, Fibonacci, or indicators. It only cares about one thing. Open quote. Will you survive long enough to learn how to play? Close quote. This game only pays those who stick around. The traders who show up on red days like they do on green days, treat drawdowns as feedback, not failure. Build systems that keep them in the game. They win. Not because they're better, but because they're still standing. Repetition builds identity. Trading is 80% psychology. You've heard it, but here's what they don't tell you. That 80% isn't built in a week or even a year. It's built through repetition. Repetition of good habits, repetition of discipline, repetition of identity-aligned self-talk. Every time you review your watch list, respect your stop, log your trade, even after a loss, you reinforce an identity, and that identity is what separates those who survive from those who burn out. Every loss is a lesson. If you're honest, everyone loses, but not everyone learns. Why? Because learning from loss requires honesty. Did I break my rules? Was I emotionally attached? Did I size up from greed? These questions sting, but they're the mirror. And if you run from the mirror, you run from growth. But if you face it, you stop fearing loss. You start using every trade as reps for your mindset. And over time, you get stronger. Build a trading system that serves your nervous system. Here's one of the biggest shifts I made. I don't need a perfect system. I need a system I can run under pressure. That means simple, repeatable entries. Risk small enough to stay neutral, a daily routine that grounds, not drains, a size that lets me sleep at night. Forget what works for others. Design what regulates you, because the real edge isn't what you know. It's how calm you are while you use it. Mindset trading is emotional mastery, not suppression. Most traders think psychology is becoming a robot. No fear, no greed, no doubt. Wrong. Mindset mastery isn't numbness, it's leadership. You feel the emotion and still act with discipline. You feel fear and still follow your system. You feel greed and still take partials. You feel doubt and still journal the trade. You don't kill emotion, you command it, like a general, calm, in control. It's not a race, it's a lifestyle. Let me be direct. You don't need to get rich this year. You need to get better this year. Because if you get better, more process-driven, more emotionally regulated, more consistent, the profits will chase you. But if you rush it, open quote, I need $10 this month or I'm out, close quote, you'll blow it all up. This game rewards those who treat it like a craft, not a casino. So slow down, zoom out. Ask yourself, open quote, am I building something that lasts 10 years or chasing something that might last 10 days? Close quote, final challenge. Step into the trader you're becoming. If you've read this far, I'll leave you with one challenge. No hype, no motivation, just this. Open quote, what would the consistent, calm, disciplined version of you do tomorrow morning? Close quote, write it down, then do it. Because success in trading isn't magic. It's self-awareness, repetition, execution, reflection, discipline. And most of all, it's the courage to show up again, one day, one trade, one decision at a time. If this speaks to your journey, share it. Subscribe for weekly content on trading psychology and mindset mastery, and comment below, what identity are you building, one trade at a time? This isn't just a game of charts, it's a game of character, and you're built to outlast. Let's go.